Hi, I'm Manuel, and in the last lesson we learned about cartographies. In this one we're going to learn about diagrams. Cartographies and their way to represent the world are essentially different from diagrams. A good place to start is by comparing them. As we discussed last week, cartographies show information in different layers, but are always referring to a main order that organizes the whole picture, let it be geographical or not. As the concept cartography assures, the whole group of information is located depending on their spatial positions that act as the order that we talked about, being linked in the end between them and adding information after being located directly in their physical places, with no other chances to locate themselves. This main order and the way to represent it is the biggest difference when we are talking about diagrams and cartographies. While all the information present in a cartography is extracted in order following a strict location in the whole set, the data shown in a diagram is sorted and placed in a certain way so that it is not the geographical order the one that matters, but the main relations between the elements involved. Moreover, a good diagram will show all the four of these concepts: variables, categories, hierarchy, and relationships. But till then, let's concentrate on these two examples. This first picture is supposed to show us the population levels in the world. As you can see, it's a cartography because its data is specifically located on its cartographical coordinates. But in exchange, when we start representing the world and the sizes of the countries depending on the total population inside them, we can see that this new world changes sizes, and the new size is not a cartography anymore, but a diagram. Here we can see one example with pixels, and the next one with deformed curves. Well, let's go with diagram variables. Diagrams have variables, categories, hierarchy, and relations. Variables are each one of the individual data we are showing in a diagram. They form all the particles the diagram is made from and enclose information in the same level of complexity, the simpler one. They are also understandable on their own, but taken one by one they lose relation to the main canvas and appear as facts. For example, each one of the Crayola colors acts as possible element to be used in a diagram. Categories are each one of the groups the variables can be sorted into. They act as boxes which organize information, just like a tree branch organizes the leaves in it. They will consume the different families data form, and will show the first level of relation between data. Sorting the items and Crayola colors by chromatic association, we are imposing a first kind of organization, putting into place each one of the colors. Hierarchy. Hierarchy shows a special kind of organization, putting into a special kind of relation, where some of the elements are above the others due to superior order, which makes us think about groups of descendants. In this example, colors are organized by the date they were included into the palette of the trademark, giving hierarchy to the older ones over the latest included ones. In the end, we've got relations. Each one of the connections between elements that help organizing them in different groups and in different families under the main order of hierarchy is called a relation. These structures will underlay between data and will remember the whole structure of the diagram, since its importance lies within the relations of the whole set. Here we can see how relations are created involving the date of conclusion and the chromatic scheme. We must always bear in mind these orders and categories are flexible, and that a good diagram is one that shows its contents clearly, overriding this initial scheme if necessary. We can find examples where the chromatic tones are hierarchy and the other ones where the hierarchy is given by set date. Now, I want you to focus in these diagrams, because everything can be a diagram. In this example, we've got the way that diagrams grow in complexity. This is a family tree. When we are adding generations and parents and elements, we're just making the diagram bigger and bigger just by adding information. If we continue, we can see that we can make diagrams from maps, as we were saying at the first minute. This is the geographical map of the Metro of Madrid. When we get rid of that geographical information, we turn this cartography into a diagram, and we get the simplified metro plan we use every day. If we continue, we can see that there are other ways to create metro plans and metro diagrams. For example, in this one, the London Tube map is explained having as hierarchy the time it takes to go from one station to the rest of the line and the grid of tube. So here we have the first example, which is the time to travel from King's Cross to St. Pancras, and we can see a very different diagram when we look from the perspective from experts. Now let's talk about infoxication. Infoxication is created when a diagram holds such an amount of data that no data can be comprehended at first glance. And here we can see that the real utility of a diagram is being seen. So, in order to make a good diagram, we must always involve all these categories and relations and groups and families, but we also must always bear in mind that we don't have to fall into infoxication, because if we do, our diagram is not going to be accessible for the rest of the people without a very extensive study. Now let's talk about the master of simplicity and flow lines, who is Edward Tufte. Edward Tufte did also take a shot on the two diagrams, and he also made time a hierarchy. So we can see these radial tube maps for London. Now, if we continue, I think his most known piece is this diagram showing Napoleon troops marching over Russia. As we can see, that light brown color is the number of soldiers and that went from Paris to Russia. As time advances, we can see that soldiers cover the distance, and many of them are lost due to illnesses or to battles. When they get to battle, the line changes color, and as you can see, the losses of the battle make the line grow thinner and thinner each way, and then we can see the return path of the soldiers from Russia to Paris. When the soldiers have already returned to Paris, we can see that the compared thickness of those lines is telling us how many soldiers Napoleon has lost. To end with, I've got a really easier diagram, which is the evolution of rock and pop music. Here we can see the main hierarchies given by a timeline, and also the main relations are given just like a family tree we have seen before, but it's made with styles, each music comes from, and its music item is sorted into a category coming from his parents in the past and locating itself in time. So this is it. I hope you have learned a little bit more about diagrams, and I hope this class helps you to organize your ideas better and to show them in diagrams. Thank you.